Over the past couple of years, I think there's been a sort of paradigm shift in the way that Hollywood operates. Now, I know that there's a ton of weight in that statement, and it can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. So let me just tell you what I think, and maybe you'll feel the same way. Let me just start off by saying I love watching movies. I love being able to completely immerse myself in a different world for a couple of hours and just watch a good story. And as a filmmaker, I love watching movies to see how the story is being told through the direction, the cinematography, the set design, the acting, the sound design, and everything else that goes into the making of a movie. When I think of Hollywood, I sort of think of the Hollywood that's depicted in the movie La La Land by Damien Chazelle. Now, I know that it's not all like that, but I feel like that movie does a really good job of capturing the love that filmmakers have for the history of cinema and for how much Hollywood has been a part of that. I feel like there's been a sort of shift in the way that movies are being made today, and it's not exactly the same, but I also think that there's a way to fix it. Now, let me just take a second and explain what movies used to be from my perspective. Some of my favorite memories of growing up as a kid were going to the movie theater with my family. We would get our popcorn and snacks and go into the movie theater and sit down with a bunch of people that we had never met. I think there's something special about sitting in a dark room with a bunch of people you don't know, surrounded by speakers and in front of a giant screen to all watch a movie together. It's an experience that's really like no other. I remember watching movies as a kid and getting completely immersed in their stories. I would be obsessed with these movies. It was so much fun to go to the movie theater as a kid, and I still love going to the movies today. And what I love most about movies is that there's this sense of escapism and immersion. For the 2 hours that you're watching this movie, you can just put aside all the distractions and everything that's going on in your life and just enjoy a good story. I absolutely love watching movies. They're so much fun, and there's so much that you can get from watching these stories. But nowadays, it seems like things are a little different. It seems like the primary way that most people watch movies these days is through streaming services. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good streaming service. I think it's fantastic that audiences can pay a subscription fee and watch any movie that's on the service. I feel like a lot of people are exposed to more movies that way, and that's fantastic. But there's also a negative side to streaming, and I think it's that people are missing out on the movie theater experience. Like I said, I don't think there's any other experience that's quite like going to a movie. And with streaming, sure, you're watching the movie, but it's not the same experience as being in that theater with a bunch of other people watching the story. And it also seems like most of the movies that we see in theaters today are these big blockbuster movies with $100 million budgets. Now, don't get me wrong, I like a lot of those movies, but it just seems like there's a lot less variety in the movies that are being put out by the major studios in Hollywood these days. And from a more philosophical note, it sort of seems like movies are less about storytelling and more about influencing an audience to think a certain way. And that's the great thing about movies. They can be used in a wide variety of ways to influence audiences. But what I mean by that is, it feels like these days you have less stories that allow you to escape from the world that you're living in, and more stories that make you focus on the negativity of the world that we live in. Don't get me wrong, I think there is a place for both of those movies, but personally, I just think there's not as many movies that are just fun to watch. Okay, so how does all of this get fixed? I think the answer is simple, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. I think the answer is that we need more filmmakers making movies that they're passionate about making. And for me, I think this is fantastic because I am a filmmaker and I want to make movies that I would want to see. And let me just tell you, making movies is not easy. It takes a lot of hard work over a long period of time. For me, one of the exciting things about making movies is I get to make movies that I want to watch. Quick tangent, I love IMDb. I try to rate every movie I watch on IMDb so that I have a list of all the films I have seen. There are 4 movies that I have given 10 stars to. These are my 4 favorite movies: Rear Window, The Empire Strikes Back, The Fugitive, and Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight. Those are the type of movies I love to watch, and by extension, those are the type of movies I would love to make. I have a love for classic Hollywood. I love watching classic Hollywood films. I especially love the work of Alfred Hitchcock. His movies have been so influential as I've been learning about filmmaking. Now, I know this is all great theory, but how do we put this into practice? One of the things I think would help in this process is the rise of independent productions. Recently in the news, there's been a lot of talk about the writer's strike and now the Screen Actors going on strike, and there's a big mess in Hollywood right now. And it looks like it might take a while for these issues to be resolved. Now, without going into all the specifics about these strikes, I think one of the positive impacts about the strike is that we'll see the rise of more independent filmmakers. After all, the strike is mainly concerned with Hollywood productions and their whole process. On the other side, independent filmmakers are still free to make their projects. And this is fantastic because that means that more people who are passionate about telling stories through film have that opportunity to be seen. One of the great things about the time that we live in is that it's so accessible for anybody to pick up a camera and make a movie. With digital technology being so readily available, the cost of making films has gone down significantly in the past couple of decades. More people are able to tell their stories now than ever. And you can upload your stuff to YouTube for free or get it on Amazon Prime or other streaming services for relatively low cost. But there's still one aspect of filmmaking that isn't as easily accessible for independent filmmakers, and that's the movie theaters. And I think the next big step that we might see in the film industry is the lowering of the cost to get your movie shown in theaters. And I think that's really important for the future of cinema. There's just something special about watching a movie in a theater and being completely immersed in a story. And I think that the more people who are able to tell stories that they're passionate about telling have the opportunity to get their movies shown in theaters, the better off the future of Hollywood is going to be. And I've had the opportunity to have 2 of my 3 short films shown in a theater in front of an audience. There is no greater reward than being able to sit down in a theater with an audience of people seeing your film for the first time, reacting in the ways that you wanted them to react, and experiencing that story together. It's an incredible experience, and I just can't get enough of it. Everything I've kind of talked about has just been things I've been thinking about over the past couple of weeks. After the release of my 3rd short film, Pies in Disguise, I sat down with my writer friend Sean Wegner, and we came up with a concept for a new story. I decided that I wanted that story to be my first feature film, and that's very exciting and also very scary. There's a lot that goes into making a feature film, and right now I don't even know if I'm completely ready, but that's what I love about filmmaking. It's a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of time, but for me, it's so much fun, and I can't wait to be able to share my film with the world. So I don't usually make videos like this, but maybe I'll make more in the future. If you found anything in this video helpful or interesting, or even if you think some of the same things that I do, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. I'll see if I can make something out of that. I don't know. We'll see.